Have you ever stood in front of the mirror and caught yourself thinking, who is this person looking back at me? Maybe the lines around your eyes are deeper than they used to be. Maybe your hands, once steady and smooth, now carry stories in their wrinkles. Or maybe you've noticed that your smile, though still there, hides a little more weariness than before. It's something many of us feel, but don't often say out loud. That quiet moment when the reflection no longer matches the image we used to carry inside. It can be jarring. A reminder of years that have passed and changes we didn't exactly ask for. But what if that reflection wasn't something to mourn? What if behind every wrinkle and every silver strand, there was beauty so deep, so sacred, that only God could truly measure it? Today, I want to sit with you and talk about something we rarely pause to honor, the beauty of aging. Not just the poetic kind that people mention in passing, but the real God-shaped beauty that grows deeper with every season of life. Because aging isn't about fading away, it's about becoming more fully who we were always meant to be. The world, of course, has its own story to tell. It shouts at us from every corner, magazine covers, television ads, social media feeds. Stay young, they say, reverse time. As if getting older were some kind of mistake to be fixed. As if the signs of a life fully lived were flaws to be hidden. But God speaks a different language. In Psalm 139, David prays, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. He doesn't say, I was fearfully and wonderfully made. No, he speaks in the present. As he is, wrinkled or worn, he knows his value hasn't faded. Neither has yours. You are still wonderfully made, even with aching knees or slower steps. You are still a masterpiece in the hands of a creator who sees far beyond skin and hair. God never looks at his children and sees someone diminished by age. He sees wisdom, tenderness, strength, and stories that carry his fingerprints. Have you ever looked at an old tree? Its bark may be cracked, its branches twisted from years of standing against the wind. But oh, the life it holds, the shade it offers, the fruit it still bears. No one looks at that tree and says it's useless because it's old. We admire it because it has stood the test of time. Your life is much the same. Sometimes we need to remember that God's definition of beauty was never the same as the world's. In 1 Samuel 16-7, we hear the Lord's voice as he chooses David. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Isn't that the most freeing truth? That God has never once judged your worth by what you see in the mirror. There's a kind of radiance that only comes with time. A softness in your smile that wasn't there before. A deeper compassion in your eyes. A steadiness in how you carry pain and joy in the same breath. These are things no youth serum can manufacture. They are the quiet graces of a soul seasoned by life and deeply rooted in faith. Maybe you've spent time comparing your reflection to old photographs. Maybe you remember what it felt like to be stronger, faster, more agile. But what if we stopped measuring ourselves by what has changed and started celebrating what has grown? Your faith has grown. Your resilience has grown. Your sense of what matters most has grown. There is no expiration date on purpose. You're not here by accident, and you're not simply existing until the end. You are still called, still cherished, still part of God's unfolding story. Isaiah 46:4 says it so beautifully. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he. I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. What a promise. Not just to sustain us, but to carry us. Have you felt lately that your value is somehow less than it used to be? Maybe you're no longer working, or your children have their own lives, and the days feel quieter than you expected. Maybe you feel invisible sometimes, like people look past you instead of seeing you. But God sees you. He sees all of you. not as someone who has passed their prime, but someone who is still glowing with the light of his spirit. You've walked through seasons others couldn't imagine. You've endured losses, held on to hope, and carried burdens that would bend most people in half. And through it all, God has been sculpting something holy in you, something unshakable. That is not something the world can ever take away. There's a story in Luke 2 about a woman named Anna. She was widowed young and lived in the temple well into her 80s, worshiping and praying day and night. Most people would have written her off as old and quiet, but God gave her the incredible honor of seeing baby Jesus, the Messiah, with her own eyes. Her age didn't disqualify her, it prepared her. Maybe you feel a bit like Anna, waiting, praying, wondering what comes next. Let me assure you, God has not forgotten you. There are still things He wants to show you, still people He wants to reach through your life, and still beauty He wants you to see, both around you and within you. So the next time you stand in front of the mirror and catch yourself sighing or frowning, pause for a moment. Look past the wrinkles. Look deeper than the skin. There you'll find a life held by grace, a soul that is not fading but being renewed day by day. That's what 2 Corinthians 4:16 reminds us. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. And that renewal, my friend, is beautiful. If this conversation is stirring something in your heart, I invite you to stay with me a little longer. There's more I want to share with you, more I believe God is gently placing on your heart today. But before we continue, could I ask you a small favor? If this message has spoken to you in any way, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It helps us reach more people who need this kind of encouragement, especially in this precious stage of life. You are not alone, and your journey still has meaning. Let's keep walking through this together. You know, sometimes the hardest part is not what others say about getting older, but the quiet things we start saying to ourselves. Little whispers that creep in during the stillness of the morning or the long stretch of an afternoon. Things like, I'm not needed anymore, or I don't feel like myself, or even, what am I still doing here? These questions don't come from vanity. They come from a longing to still matter, to still have a place in a world that seems to move faster with each passing year. And it's okay to feel that way. It's human. But let me remind you of something so important. God has never stopped seeing you, never stopped delighting in who you are becoming. Yes, even now. Have you ever watched the way a grandparent looks at their grandchild? There's a softness in their eyes, a quiet pride, a kind of love that does not demand anything, but simply exists because of who the child is. That is just a glimpse of how your Heavenly Father looks at you, with gentleness, with joy, with a deep understanding of every story held in your heart. And sometimes we forget just how much beauty lives in those stories. The kind of beauty that cannot be rushed, the kind that only grows in seasons of waiting, learning, breaking, and healing. The kind of beauty that comes from knowing what it means to fall and rise again. That is a holy kind of beauty, the kind the world cannot manufacture or photograph. There is a reason Proverbs 16 says, "Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness." In God's eyes, aging is not a loss, it is an honor. Every gray strand tells of nights you stayed awake in prayer, days you chose to love when it was hard, moments you held your tongue when it would have been easier to lash out. You have been shaped by grace, not by time alone. Some days may feel heavy, especially when you're dealing with pain in your body or memories that tug at your heart. But those same days can also hold the softest mercies. A warm cup of tea in your hands, a phone call from someone you love, a Bible verse that finds you just when you need it most. These are not small things. They are threads of God's presence woven into your everyday life. Sometimes I think about how Jesus honored the elderly in ways the world often forgets. He never rushed past them. he never dismissed their voices. In fact, many of the people who recognized him first were older, waiting souls. Like Simeon, who held the baby Jesus in his arms and said, "My eyes have seen your salvation." His hands may have trembled, but his spirit was strong. He had been waiting, hoping, trusting. And his moment came. Your moments are still coming too. Not everything beautiful happens in our youth. Some of the most powerful things God does through us happen when the noise fades, when the crowds thin, and when our hearts are finally quiet enough to hear Him clearly. And maybe that's the invitation of this season. Not to fight the passage of time, but to walk slowly with it, to let it reveal things we were too hurried to notice before. The beauty of silence, the comfort of stillness. The way faith deepens, not just in the highs, but in the ordinary rhythm of everyday trust. Maybe you've noticed that your prayers have changed too. They've grown simpler, more honest. Less about fixing and more about surrendering. Less about being seen and more about being close to God. That's no small thing. That is spiritual maturity, the kind that doesn't need applause because it is already known by heaven. You might not move as quickly as you used to, but your words carry weight. Your presence brings peace. Your experience is a gift. Whether you're retelling an old story at the dinner table or holding a child's hand while they cry, you are living proof of God's steady love. Think about how many times you've seen His faithfulness. Through the loss of loved ones, through health scares, through changes you never expected. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still believing, still becoming, and that becoming never stops. No matter your age, God is not finished with you. Philippians 1 tells us that He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. That means you are still a work in progress, still being shaped, still glowing with purpose. Do you remember the first time someone told you that you were beautiful? Maybe it was long ago. Maybe it was quiet. Maybe it was rare. But I want you to hear it now in a new way. You are beautiful because you are His. You are beautiful because you have allowed love to soften your heart instead of harden it. You are beautiful because your life still reflects His light, even when the world tries to dim it. This isn't about ignoring the hard parts of aging. We won't pretend the mirror always feels kind. We won't deny that some days bring aches we didn't ask for. But even in those moments, you are not less. You are more. More aware of God's presence. More in tune with what truly matters. More filled with stories that only someone who has lived long and loved deep can truly tell. You have become a vessel of quiet wisdom. Someone who knows how to sit with pain without needing to fix it right away. Someone who listens more than they speak. Someone who can say, "I've been there," and mean it with compassion, not pride. So don't shy away from the mirror. Don't flinch when you see yourself. Look again. Look closer. That face, those eyes, those hands, they tell the story of someone who has been held by God through it all. Someone who has learned to love deeply, to pray earnestly, to walk through fire and still sing praise. This world might not always see it, but heaven rejoices over it. And if you ever forget your worth, remember this. You are made in the image of the One who never grows old, who never forgets, who never turns away. His beauty is eternal, and so is the soul He placed inside you. Let that be your mirror. Let His love be the light that reflects who you really are. Shall we keep going? There's still one more part of this journey, and I believe it holds something powerful for your heart. There is something sacred about reaching this stage of life with your heart still open, your faith still alive, and your soul still seeking. It is no small thing. In a world that tells us beauty fades and purpose slows down, to keep believing that your life still matters takes courage. It takes faith, and it takes a kind of hope that only grows stronger with time. Sometimes I think about how many invisible battles are carried behind quiet eyes. The ones who smile at church every week, but cry at home when no one is watching. The ones who keep showing up, who keep calling their children, even when the phone barely rings back, who keep folding laundry and saying prayers and offering kindness without asking for anything in return. You, my friend, are one of them. Whether you realize it or not, you have become an anchor, not loud, not flashy, but steady. And in a world that moves too fast, steadiness is a rare gift. The people around you may not always say it, but they feel it. Your calm presence, your quiet encouragement, your unwavering faith in moments that would break others. That is beauty. Not the kind you see on magazine covers, but the kind heaven celebrates. And if you ever doubt your impact, remember, sometimes the most powerful testimonies are not spoken from pulpits, but whispered from kitchens, passed down in hugs or shared in the way you look someone in the eyes and really see them. Your life may feel small some days, but in God's hands, nothing is small. Every gesture of love, every act of forgiveness, every silent prayer has eternal weight. In Psalm 92, there is a verse I treasure deeply. It says, "They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green." What a beautiful promise. You are still meant to bear fruit. Not just the kind that moves mountains, but the kind that heals hearts, that comforts, that teaches, that holds space for others to rest in. You are not on the sidelines of life. You are still in the story. You are still part of the divine unfolding of grace in the world. Just think of Abraham and Sarah, who became parents when everyone else thought their time had passed. Think of Naomi, who walked through loss and bitterness, only to become the root of a redemption story through Ruth and Boaz. Think of Zechariah and Elizabeth, whose answered prayers brought forth John the Baptist, the one who would prepare the way for Jesus himself. In every one of these stories, age was not a limitation. It was part of the preparation. God did not choose them despite their age. He chose them through it. And that tells me something about you, about where you are right now. That the years behind you have not disqualified you. They have deepened you. They have refined you. They have made you ready for what is still ahead. So instead of asking, "What have I lost?" maybe the better question is, "What am I gaining?" You are gaining a wisdom that sees through noise. You are gaining a peace that does not panic in the unknown. You are gaining a love that is less about proving and more about giving freely. You are gaining nearness to God that comes not just from reading about Him, but from walking with Him through fire and storm. And as your body slows, your spirit can still rise. As your eyes dim, your insight sharpens. As your steps falter, your legacy strengthens. That is the upside-down beauty of the kingdom. What the world calls decline, God often calls becoming. What the world sees as fading, God sees as flourishing. You are still blooming. Maybe not in ways others notice, but in ways that matter most. In the way you choose kindness over complaint. In the way you pray when no one else remembers. In the way you love without needing applause. And if you're wondering whether anyone sees all of that, let me tell you, God sees. He sees every tear you wipe away in silence. He sees every ache you push through with grace. He sees every moment you choose to trust Him, even when it hurts. And He is proud of you, not because you have done everything perfectly, but because you have kept going. You have not let bitterness take root. You have not let regret steal your joy. You have kept showing up, even when the mirror feels unfamiliar and the days feel long. That is a quiet kind of bravery, and it deserves to be honored. So I want to leave you with this. When you look in the mirror tomorrow, pause, not to count the lines or sigh at the changes. Pause to remember the life that has been lived, the grace that has carried you, the love that still surrounds you. Look into your own eyes and say gently, "I am still here. I am still becoming. I am still loved. You are not forgotten. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are, right now, a reflection of God's ongoing work, a living testament of His faithfulness through the years. And if there is someone in your life who needs this reminder too, maybe a friend, a sister, a neighbor who hides her loneliness behind a polite smile, I invite you to share this video with them. Let it be a thread of encouragement in a world that often forgets the sacredness of growing older. I would also love to hear from you. If something in this message touched your heart, share it in the comments below. Tell us about a moment when you felt God's beauty shining through your age, or simply let us know that you're walking this journey too. Every word you share might be the exact comfort someone else is praying for. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. It's how we keep creating content that speaks to your heart, your season, your faith. You are not just a viewer here. You are part of a community, part of a generation still shining with God's glory. So may you walk into this day with lifted eyes and a softened heart. May you see yourself as God sees you, not just as someone growing older, but as someone becoming more radiant with every passing year. You are His beloved, His masterpiece, and that will never change.